I am deeply honored to stand before you today, entrusted with the task of speaking at this special event, dedicated to the memory of the remarkable women from my birthplace, Iran. As a fellow Baha'i who was raised in Iran, I cannot help but reflect on the shared experiences we have endured. It is with utmost sincerity that I declare, had circumstances been different, many of us Iranian Baha'is present here today could have easily found ourselves in the same situation as the 10 innocent women we gather to honor this evening. Their heart-wrenching yet magnificent sacrifice serves as a stark reminder of the tremendous price paid by many Baha'is in the pursuit of their beliefs, which include the promotion of the equality between men and women. In 1983, a tragic event unfolded where 10 Baha'i women who had endured months of torture and imprisonment were mercilessly executed without the knowledge of their grieving families. Among the victims, one was merely 17 years old, while the others were mostly in their 20s. Their only crime was their unwavering belief in a faith that championed gender equality, justice, and truthfulness.
This is the story of Mona Mahmoudnejad. She was 4 years old when her parents returned to Iran. They settled first in Tabriz and then Shiraz. She was a teacher of Baha'i children's classes. Mona Mahmoudnejad was arrested on the evening of October 23, 1982, together with her father. She was imprisoned first at the Sepah Detention Center and then transferred to Adilabad prison on November 28, 1982, together with 5 other Baha'i women. In January 1983, her mother, Farkhunde Mahmoudnejad, was instructed by the authorities to present 500,000 tuman for her release. Upon doing so, the money was taken and she too was arrested and imprisoned in Adilabad prison. 5 months later, on June 13, 1983, Farkhunde was released. Mona was executed 5 days later, on June 18, 1983, together with 9 other women. They were executed by hanging in Chogan Square in Shiraz. Their bodies were not returned to their families, and they were possibly buried in the Baha'i cemetery of Shiraz by the authorities. Mona was only 17 years old when she was executed.
This is the story of Roya Ashrafi. She was born into a Baha'i family. After completing her high school education, she enrolled in veterinary science at Shiraz University. She was in her 3rd year of study when she and other Baha'i students were expelled for their adherence to the faith. On November 29, 1982, Roya Ashrafi's family home was raided. She and her mother, Izzat Janami Ashrafi, and father, Inayatullah Ashrafi, were arrested and imprisoned at the Sepah Detention Center. On January 4th, 1983, she and her mother were transferred to Adilabad prison. Sometime later, her father was transferred there also. On the 16th of June, 1983, he was executed by hanging, together with 5 other believers. 2 days later, on the 18th of June, 1983,
This is the story of Simin Soberi. Simin was born into a Baha'i family on March 2nd, 1959. During her childhood, to promote the Baha'i faith, her family lived as pioneers in various cities in Iran. She graduated from high school in Shiraz and was employed by an agricultural corporation in Mavdash, Fars. After the Islamic Revolution, she was dismissed from her job for being a Baha'i. She served as an assistant to the auxiliary board. Simin Soberi was arrested at her home in Shiraz on October 24th, 1982. She was initially held at the Sepah Detention Center and was then transferred to Adilabad prison. She was executed by hanging on June 18th, 1983 in Shoban Square in Shiraz, together with 9 other Baha'i women. Simin was 24 at the time of her execution.
This is the story of Shaheen Dalwan. She was born into a Baha'i family. From a young age, she was called Shireen by her family and friends. She studied sociology at the University of Shiraz. In 1979, while in her final year of university, her family moved to the United Kingdom. She remained with her grandmother to complete her degree. After graduating, she chose not to leave Iran. Shireen was arrested on the 29th of November of 1982 during a Baha'i youth meeting. She and the others arrested were taken to the Sepah Detention Center. Over a month later, she was transferred to Adilabad prison. She was executed by hanging on the 18th of June of 1983 in Shoban Square in Shiraz, together with 9 other Baha'i women. Shireen was 25 years old at the time of her execution.
This is the story of Akhta Sobet. She was born into a Baha'i family. Her father owned a small shop and she assisted him while also acquiring an education at school. At the age of 18, on the 8th of December 1978, her family home and shop were looted, as were the properties of the other Baha'is living in the area. Akhtar was forced to leave Sagastan and moved to Shiraz, where she continued her studies and later graduated as a nurse. She worked at a hospital and taught Baha'i children's classes. Akhtar Sobet was arrested on the 23rd of October 1982 and was first held at the Sepah Detention Center for 38 days. She was then transferred to Adilabad prison and executed on the 18th of June 1983.
This is the story of Mahshid Nirumand. She was born into a Baha'i family. She graduated with a degree in physics from Shiraz University and had diplomas in 3 languages of English, German, and French. She was a teacher of Baha'i children's classes. On the 29th of November 1982, Mashid Nirumand was arrested. She was first held at the Sepah Detention Center for 48 days and then transferred to Adilabad prison. Then on the 18th of June 1983, she was executed together with 9 other Baha'i women. Mashid was 28 at the time of her execution.
This is the story of Zareen Morimi Abione. She was born into a Baha'i family. Shortly after her birth, her family moved to Tehran, where she completed her primary and high school education. She attended Tehran University and graduated with a degree in English literature at the age of 21. She then worked as a translator at a petrochemical plant in Mavdash and later Shiraz. Her father was in charge of the repair of the house of the Bab, and the family lived in a close-by house in the Shamshirgad Hall alley, and Zareen lived with them. After the commencement of the Islamic Revolution, she was dismissed from her job for her adherence to the faith. On November 29th, 1982, a number of soldiers raided her family's home and arrested Zareen, her father, and her mother. They were imprisoned in Adilabad prison. Her mother was released 5 months later, while Zareen's father was released 2 years later, in 1985. On June 18th, 1983, Zareen was executed together with 9 other Baha'i women. She was 29 at the time of her execution.
This is a story of Tahireh Arjamandi Siyaboshi, who was born into a Baha'i family. She married in 1972 and pioneered to Chenar, a small village near Tehran, for 2 years. She and her husband Jamshid then returned to Tehran, where she undertook nursing school. In 1976, they pioneered again, this time to Yasuj, Fars. She was employed as a nurse at the local hospital, and he, her husband, started a small business of selling electrical goods. At the onset of the revolution in Iran in 1978, she was dismissed from her job for her adherence to the Baha'i faith, and their home was raided. Due to this, Tahireh and her husband were forced to move to Shiraz, where she began to work at a private hospital. On October 26, 1982, her husband Jamshid was arrested. He was held in solitary confinement at the Sepah Detention Center for 6 weeks and tortured severely. Tahireh was then arrested on November 29, 1982. She was first held at the Sepah Detention Center and then transferred to Adilabad prison a month later. Her husband was also transferred to the same prison. Then, on June 16, 1983, he was executed by hanging, together with 5 other believers. Bahram Yaldai, Bahram Afnan, Inayatollah Ishraqi, Abdul Hussein Azadi, and Kurosh Haqqi. Tahira was executed by hanging 2 days later, on June 18, 1983, together with 9 other Baha'i women. Tahira was 30 at the time of her execution.
This is the story of Nosrat Ufrani Yaldai. She was born into a Baha'i family. She completed her elementary education and married in 1952. She was a member of the local spiritual assembly of Shiraz. She was arrested on October 23, 1982, together with her husband and son, Bahram Yaldai. The family were first taken to the Sepah detention center, where Nosrat was interrogated and tortured severely. Sometime after this, Nosrat's husband was released from prison. However, Nosrat and her son Bahram did not receive the same fate. A little over 3 months later, Nosrat was transferred to the Adilabad prison. She was executed by hanging in Chogan Square in Shiraz on June 18, 1983, together with 9 other Baha'i women. Her son, Bahram Yaldai, was executed by hanging 2 days earlier in that same square on June 16, 1983. At the time, she was 46 years old.
This is the story of Izzat Ishraqi, who was born in 1926 in Isfahan. She completed high school and later married Inayatollah Ishraqi in 1947. She had 5 children. After her husband's retirement, the family settled in Shiraz. Then, on November 29, 1982, their home was raided and she was arrested with her husband and daughter. They were imprisoned at the Sepah Detention Center. On January 4, 1983, she and Roya were transferred to Adilabad prison. Sometime later, her husband joined them in Adilabad prison. On June 16, 1983, her husband was executed by hanging, together with 5 other believers. 2 days later, on June 18, 1983, she and Roya were executed by hanging, together with 8 other Baha'i women. Izzat was 57 at the time of her execution.
Ten of my sisters gave their life away. Nothing could convince them to recant their faith. No separation. Our story is one. We are all rays of one sun. Now
We are honored this evening to have several dignitaries among us. Mayor Hahn of Irvine, Mayor Pro Tem Otto of Laguna Niguel, and Mr. Minogan, Mayor Emeritus of Laguna Niguel.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here with you tonight. You know, as I'm reflecting back on the names that were shared, the stories that were shared, I think of 1983. I was probably in 4th grade at the time. And here I am today. And from then until now, this world hasn't been kind to humanity. And there's so many things that have happened that I've learned of, and many more that I still have to learn of. But one thing is for sure, that when you mix religion with patriarchy, with power, with greed, nothing good comes of it. And we've seen time and time again how women and young girls seem to be the ones to rise each and every time. They're the ones that suffer, but they're also the ones that rise above. And we've seen that time and time again. And today, as we remember the 10 women that were executed in Shiraz, let's be hopeful for not just 10, but hundreds of women that are going to stand up for one another, regardless of where they come from, regardless of what religion they practice, and regardless of where they're going. I think it's very, very important for all of us to continue to get to know each other, to learn more about one another, to understand where we're coming from. Each and every one of us has a story, has a history to share. And it's our job to make sure that we learn and grow from it.
Thank you, Mayor Khan, for those wonderful words. My name is Stephanie Otto, and I am the Mayor Pro Tem here in the city of Laguna Niguel. And I am so honored to be a part of this ceremony for these 10 Baha'i women. In the city of Laguna Niguel, we do an invocation at all of our city council meetings, and we're proud to include the Baha'i faith in that rotation. I was one of those people in 2022 who clipped off a piece of my hair for the women of Iran. When we stand for the women of Iran, we stand for the women of all the world. We stand for all of us. My family story is I am the great-granddaughter or survivor of the Armenian genocide. I stand with you in your pain. I mourn with you. I'm honored to be here. This has been a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. And we all must stand together in our story is one. Thank you very much.
I'm very emotional tonight. As a Persian American, having lived here for almost 50 years, in 1983 I was living in New York. I didn't know about this story. But anyhow, as the former two-term mayor of this beautiful city, I wanted to welcome you all. We've gathered here to memorialize the lives of these 10 women that honestly, as a Persian American, I feel bad that I didn't know the story of any of them. I haven't heard their names. I didn't even know that it happened. And I do feel very bad. This is a very special night. I want to thank all the coordinators for this program that is providing this special gathering for all of us to know about what's happening. What happened to these 10 women is truly not acceptable. And most of them, what I heard was amazing women. They could have contributed to the humankind. They would have served their homeland and the humanity with their education, dedication, and service.
The song suggests to embrace the spirit of hope and to follow your hearts and to take action. The repetition of maybe I, maybe you throughout the song highlights the shared responsibility to combat oppression and become the soldiers of love and to bring light to the darkness of the world. Maybe I, maybe you. Maybe I, maybe you can make a change to the world, reaching out for a soul that's kinda lost in the dark. Maybe I, maybe you can find the key to to catch the spirit of hope, to save one hopeless heart.
I'm a member of the Baha'i faith. I have been all my life. I'm not Persian. A lot of people don't know that, or they're surprised. I'm like, yeah, I was born and raised a Baha'i. And I remember this time, I was young. And I remember something happening in the 80s and my parents sitting me down and telling me this story. Oh gosh. And I cried. I was like 8, I don't know, 7 or 8. And I cried and I cried and I cried into this napkin, and I saved that napkin for so many years because it was an impact moment. This was like such an impact moment in my life that I never wanted to lose that napkin. It had tears that were sacred for my sisters because our story is one. You are the light of the world. I'm gonna tell the world we're gonna be alright. And you are the way to peace. I'm gonna tell the world we're gonna be alright. Cry to the rushing river. Shout to the lonely sea. Drown in the ocean of your love. Living in you, I will